Hello friends. Today I'll demonstrate Oracle Cloud Infrastructure capabilities by showing how to create an API gateway, configure deployments, and expose it publicly through a load balancer. Let's take a look at this diagram. Here I'm showing two API gateways. Either gateway can connect to an autonomous transaction processing database through ORDS APIs or to Oracle Fusions. Now the idea behind it is like you don't want to expose Fusion APIs to the outside world. For that matter, actually, like you are going to be using the API gateway in between. So API gateway is going to be accessing Fusion APIs. But then if you want to access from outside, you have different permissions basically, as different authentication mechanism, and that can happen actually through load balancer. So the load balancer is going to be sitting outside, which is going to be public facing. And the moment the traffic comes into the load balancer, based on the routing path, actually, the traffic is going to be routed to the private API gateway, and the private gateway will identify the deployment, and the deployment is going to be mapped to the respective API. Log into OCI console, come back to development services, and select gateways. Now, if you see on the left hand side, we have to select the compartment. So select the compartment in which you want to create the gateway. So we'll retain dev03 and now come press the create gateway button. Enter the name. Okay, so select type as public, private basically, because this is what exactly we want to create is a private gateway, not the public gateway. Public gateways are going to be accessible from outside, but we want to make it behind the load balancer. So now select the networking, which is a VCN, tap VCN, and select the subnet in which you want to create. Enable network security groups. And WebSSL, because this is going to be like it will allow outside traffic. I think the WebSSL is not required. It is required only for the load balancer. But anyway, if we have selected that way. Now, certificate was created in within OCI, so I'm just going to select the existing certificate, and it's easy to create certificate, which I can explain in a different video. Basically, how to create certificate within OCI. I'm just going to select the OCI. I'm going to select the certificate which has been created, and I'll just quickly check whether I've entered all the information. Let me check. I missed out. Okay, so I think I've missed out that subnet. You have to select the subnet in which you have to create this private gateway and then press the button, create subnet. Okay, so after the API gateway is created, it will turn out to be green, and then it will allow you to create your deployments. Let's wait for a few more minutes. Right, so it has created, and now it's time to create deployments. Yeah, so you can see private has been created. Okay, so I'm just going to create deployment, and I can name my deployment like it could be /v1 /health check, but I'll be creating health check first actually because that's going to be required for my load balancer. So I'm going to name my deployment as health check, and I can prefix it with /v1 or check, health check, whatever you want to call it as. We're not changing MTLS. We don't want MTLS. We don't want calls. I think even the logging is not. I'm not going to enable the login as well actually. So we can go to the next step now, which is authentication. I don't want to put the authentication at this point of time because it's a health check. Yeah, so I'm just going to put the routing path /health and method is get. Now there are backend types. There are four backend types: HTTP, Oracle functions, stock response, and logout. HTTP is mainly for the APIs. Oracle function is a serverless function, and stock response is if you want to do the health check, you can just simply check the connectivity, send the status back. So there's no API or any backend services going to be required in this case. So I can put the status code as 201 or 200 and the success information message body, basically what exactly it will send back. Routing policy I don't want, route response policy I don't want to get. I'm just going to press the create button now. Let me check. Then the health check, dev3. This looks okay. I think it's good to. I've just created now health check deployment. So let's see. So once the deployment has been created, the next step is going to be to create the load balancer and then point this create this API gateway as a backend set to that load balancer. Log into OCI console. You have to come to networking, and within networking you can check load balancer. And I've already created load balancer in compartment dev3, but I'll just show you the screen and what all information is required in order to create a load balancer. When you press the load balancer, it will ask you for the load balancer name. So you have to follow the naming convention as per your company standard. And so in our example, actually, I was supposed to be creating a public load balancer, which is going to be exposed outside, and it will be connected to the API gateway. So I'll be selecting the public here. I'll be selecting the ephemeral. Ephemeral is basically is between, I would say, reserved and ephemeral. So idea is basically like if I'm creating the reserved, Oracle will provide you the static IP address, and it will not going to change. Usually, reserved is going to be used for the production environment, whereas ephemeral is going to be used for test environments. So even this is not going to be changing very frequently, but it can change. For that reason, actually, we are going to be selecting ephemeral because it's going to be slightly less expensive. And here you have to select the networking, so like VCN, where exactly you want to create the load balancer. So we are going to be selecting dev3 is our compartment, and it will ask you, it will show you basically like which all VCNs are in this particular. Now, usually our compartments are in environments. Yeah, it's taking time actually. So let me check actually which compartment. So this is the load balancer which I've created. I'll just check which compartment belongs to. Right. So we went to VCN to check basically where exactly VCN has been created. So it has been created in compartment network. So if you see like it's a CNI def VCN. Yep. So let's go back to load balance. And I'm going to change the, sorry, I need to change the compartment. I need to create in my Dev3 environment. So we have already created one load balancer. So if you see this one, let me just go through the creation first. So I said a public, I've said about ephemeral IP address, and here I'm going to select network. It should show you DevECN. And within that, actually, like we'll have, because of the subnet has been created in different compartments, right? So we have selected dev03 pops up. Okay, I'm not touching this network security groups to control traffic at this point of time. There are quite few things which are very important actually, and this is the tagging which we have enabled. So just tagging is used for the monitoring, plus at the same time it can help you identify the cost basically, or manage the cost basically, how much a department or development environment is costing you basically. Okay, so I'm just going to press, okay, cost center is going to be, and my backend servers, you can have IP hash, list connections basically, or the weighted round robin. Now, how exactly it works basically? Let's say you got three backend servers running behind the load balancer. So when the traffic comes first to the load balancer, it will go through the weighted round robin fashion, or it can do the IP hash, and based on the hash value it will identify which backend server it needs to be assigned to, or the list connections basically. This policy routes incoming request traffic to the backend server with the fewest active connections. That means if the backend servers is backend server 1 and 2, they are overwhelmed. In that case, what will happen is load balancer will identify, okay, this backend server is overloaded. I'll try to assign it to the third one. So it will start assigning the traffic, route the traffic to the third backend server. And you can add the instances, but we are not going to be adding the instances at this point of time, just because our backend servers are going to be IP based. It's not a compute instance, it's an API gateway. And this is where exactly you can say, like, when for the health check, HTTP 80 port number is opened, interval actually, at which interval actually you want to keep running actually and keep checking the health check. Okay, so I'll be showing it later on. Yeah, but then I'll just go to the next one. Now this is the listener. This is going to be very important actually. So you have to provide the listener name. You have to provide HTTPS, because we are running. Now this listener is going to be listening on HTTPS protocol. That means a certificate needs to be exchanged between the outside world and the listener. So okay, so now we are saying this particular load balance is going to be running or listening to HTTPS protocol at 443 port number, and at the same time I need to upload the certificate. This certificate is going to be important because this is your traffic is going to be terminated at the load balancer. Yeah, your so whatever certificate you have uploaded for the API gateway, so you have to understand two different way. Okay, just 1 minute, I'll just draw out something. Let's understand this. So take an example. You have a load balancer and you have backend servers, like, which is nothing but API gateway, and you can have another API gateway, Okay, so now what happens is, let me draw. So let's say a traffic comes here from outside world, right? So this is going to be HTTPS protocol, HTTPS traffic. Now what happens is you need to upload the certificate because these you're going to be accessing the load balancer with your company dot, take an example, hseni dot net something, yeah. So you can call it as web server dot hseni dot net, let's say. This is my domain. Yep. For that, actually, you have to create your certificate again because it's a wildcard certificate, right? So this is your domain. I need to create you have to create like web server dot hscni.net, and then you have to generate a certificate basically. Once you've generated the certificate, you need to upload the certificate over here because if I'm taking an example, if I'm doing the www.google.com, right, how does it know basically, how does it get authenticated? So it validates basically and then establishes the connectivity between the Google server and your laptop basically, and then whenever you're exchanging any information, it gets encrypted. Yep. So you your traffic is going to be, so this is your listener process sitting here, and the listener process will have the certificate here. So like whenever the connectivity happens, it will come here, it will come to load balancer, and then it will terminate the traffic, and then it needs to reinstate the traffic and reinstate the traffic basically between your load balance API gateway. Now this certificates can be different or it could be same, but it needs to terminate the traffic and then you have to reestablish the connectivity between the load balance and API gateway. At this point, it's analyzing basically what is the route path. Now, when the route path, when the traffic is terminated, it will identify the route path, and after route path is been analyzed, it can assign the traffic to the backend server. It could be API gateway 1, API gateway 2. Yeah, so this is going to be 2. So based on, so you can understand now the traffic is terminated here, so it requires certificate here. At the same time, when we created API gateway, that time also we said, okay, like the certificate is going to be uh, this. Yeah, so that's how it is. So coming back to the same thing, we'll have to select the certificate. The certificate has been created in another, can't remember. Yep, so this is the one. Actually I've created a certificate on the root side. The same certificate I'm trying to use it. You might have seen my API gateway video. Same certificate I'm using. It's all we are doing is we are terminating the traffic at the load balancer. It analyzes because you can have WAF also at the load balancer, which will analyze your traffic so that there's no DDoS attack and all those things. And then it will re-encrypt, re-establish the connectivity from load balancer into an API gateway on the backend server. Yeah. So this is what exactly I wanted to explain. I'm not going to create a new load balancer, but I'm just going to show you what all information I've created over here. So I've shown you like we have created load balancer, then we've created security. There's no security part here, but listener. I've created listener basically and then attached that particular load balancer certificate over here, and it's going to be SSL. A backend set, I've created only one backend set. If you can see now, this backend set has got only one backend, which is nothing but the API gateway. So this is nothing but is my API gateway backend. Policies, I'm not touching it. Hostname, I'm not touching right now. Monitoring, you can monitor basically, you can create logs. We have not enabled logs, but you can create logs at any given point of time, which will allow you to see the traffic. But just make sure you're not enabling or overwhelming the logs actually, because if you create logs, it will keep writing it because it's your load balancer, right? Unless you want to analyze something, don't enable the logs. Yeah, you can enable logs which are error ones. So if there's any problem, actually, like not the access one but the error ones, if there's any problem in the load balance or accessing, or due to some reason actually there's some failure happening, you can enable error logs and you can identify. Okay. Okay, I'll quickly show you how to create certificates. Now, in this particular scenario, I'm not going to be creating any certificates because this certificate has been given by my company. So they will have this wildcard certificate. So you have to just import the certificate rather than creating the certificate in the system. So we'll just import the certificate. Now, if you import the certificate, so these are the three options actually. Like when you are creating the certificates, one issued by internal CA, the certificate authority, issued by internal CA, managed externally, and there's the last one is going to be imported. If you select the imported one, I'll give the name as just test. It will ask you to provide three files. Now, three files you need to go back to your company asking them, provide them the certificate pump file and certificate chain and the private key. If there's any private key, they have to provide to you. So once you have uploaded this private key, all three files, it will automatically create a certificate, and that certificate you can start referencing in your API gateway and your load balancer. Okay, so this is a certificate actually which we have created, and you'll find all the versions. So you'll find the renew certificate. So when the certificate gets expired, so especially in this case, actually like the certificate getting expired in July, on July 9th, sorry, August 9th, basically, uh, and I can renew the certificate. So once you renew the certificate, it will ask you to upload all these things, all these certificates again. So there's no change to your configuration to the load balance or API gateway. Automatically, that's going to be taken care because these certificates will take the precedence, the new certificate. Okay. Hope you liked my session. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.